So as you talk about this leadership and you talk about executives inside of a business, they are increasingly becoming operators. Like you said, they're working in their business and not on their business. It could be the VP of customer support. It could be a COO, a CRO. They've got daily, weekly, monthly tasks that often take precedent or priority. There's a downward pressure, right, to perform. I got to hit numbers. I've got problems I need to take care of. We know that those 5% of the problems take 80% of your time away. For you, you're working in this business to affect change. It's not a light switch. It's a change that has to formulate and become part of the movement of that organization on the daily. So how, as a consultant, do you ensure that business leaders are working towards these culture and employee experience initiatives while they're addressing all the things that are coming at them from left, right, and otherwise? How do you negotiate that process? Because it seems evident to me the value of having somebody that is not being pulled away in these areas to be present and engaged and focused on this task. How do you move through that organization?
Yeah, you raise an outstanding point. Besides just having another person there to be focused solely on the improved employee experience so that you can have the improved customer experience. It's why my trademark is literally EX to CX. But the advantage of bringing in someone from outside of your business to do this is you have a fresh eyes and ears approach to this tunnel vision. So, your vision is set this way, but sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, right? Like you're so ingrained in what's going on and putting out the fires or keeping up with the numbers and all of those things. It's just too much. And so
it's myopic.
It is myopic. And sadly, it's the first thing forgotten. I'm not sure why, but I guess it's the easiest thing, right? Because it's not usually documented. One of the things that is proprietary to me is, and my process is helping companies come up with an educational manual, not just a training manual, touching back on that E. Actually, I think maybe this is a good time to also mention that plus one E in the recipe, and that's empathy. And so I think as someone coming in from the outside, they're able to have a clear picture of the whole operation of what's going on, but also able to touch on the EQ, the emotional quotient, the human aspect that is so crucial today, particularly post-pandemic, where the people side of the business is important and employees no longer willing to just work for a paycheck, no longer willing to just be there and do task-driven jobs. They're even willing to take a pay cut where money, is usually the first thing thrown at someone. And I've had clients say to me, Jill, I don't know what to do. I just keep throwing money at them. I'm like, okay, but let's back up. Have you applied some of the things that we've talked about and learned about? I have a hybrid course where it's coaching and this course, which has teaching content and videos and resources together with things that you can apply immediately in your business, as well as planning for the long term. And so as we were talking about this, she keeps saying you're throwing money. And then she's like, oh yeah, okay, I know. I have to go back and I just need the time, right? She keeps saying I need the time to integrate these topics into my business. And so I think that's where there's such a strong advantage, besides being able to have an outside view and truly a fresh ears hearing what's going on without a biased point of view, and eyes to see what's happening, bringing in an outside view, bringing in other suggestions as mentioned, from other industries, but also really helping to bring in that human component. And so these other things with the recipe, the empathy piece is so huge. It's like, again, to bring in a food or a cooking analogy, when we cook, we use salt as a seasoning. And it highlights, it brings out the flavors of the other main ingredients. And so the key is looking at those other ingredients for what you do and being consistent with those things. But the empathy is something that's sprinkled in and that's used across everything else to highlight and bring forward the best of what those things are. And without empathy, it doesn't matter what your other ingredients are. It doesn't matter what your process is. It doesn't matter what tech you've included and how sexy and it might be and trendy and on point. None of that will matter unless you have the human element of empathy. And so I think that's really showing the human element, the recognizing your people asset is essential in no matter what you do. And sometimes it means being open enough, letting the ego be parked outside and bringing in someone who can really tell you what they see, what they hear, having experience, offering other ideas, and being willing. Frank, I think this is key. Being willing and open to hear the truth. So I am someone who I'm not a yes person. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm there to make a difference and to make a change, and take it or leave it. That's fine. But I'm going to be honest with what I see. And I love having, as you can tell, probably, I love this conversation. I love this topic. And I'm a people person. I'm a team player as much as a leader. My personality profile said, and I'm like, yes, they got me, because I love that exchange. Both in my past with my food styling, my fashion design, I was always a part of a creative team. And honestly, that's what lights me up. And being able to problem solve and brainstorm is where I shine. That's what excites me. And that's where I feel like I can make the most difference. And I just hope that company leaders are willing and open to hear the reality of possibly another way, and a way. And it doesn't mean a complete change. It means just a small shift in your vision and being able to incorporate something that's so important and foundational and should always have been incorporated, but we know now since the pandemic must be incorporated. And that truly is your employee experience.
Man, it's incredible how, like, when you attach that empathy component to it, and in your role as a trusted advisor, how that leads to a better level of discernment, and that higher level thinking in the discernment engine creates a more thoughtful outcome. And that thoughtful outcome, I believe, is really what you're getting at in turn, because that's going to be what people see and know you as. This is a powerful role that you play with inside the organization, one that you typically don't see. Human resources does not fill that role. That's not the role and the mission of an HR team. That's really what you're talking about, is many times left up to the command and control structure inside the business. That's where we can have radically different experiences for people across related organizations, CMO relating to the CRO, relating to the chief operating officer that has a mission working with the VP of customer experience, and brand and everything else is represented differently across it. So like the value as a trusted advisor to come in and map out employee journey and to map out culture is huge.